Hi everyone, welcome to Darien Library. My name is Erin Shea. I'm the head of adult programming here. Thank you so much for coming out this evening. I would just like to briefly mention that programs at Darien Library are made possible by our annual Friends of the Library campaign. So thank you so much for your continued support to make programs like these available to the community. So tonight we're going to hear from a panel of organizers about New Year's resolutions and how to organize your home or office. And I figured I would share with you one of my New Year's resolutions, which was to start keeping track of if anyone comes to our programs who is at the library for the first time. So I see a lot of familiar faces tonight, so I don't know, is anyone here for the first time? You just have to raise your hand. I'm not going to make you do anything. Okay, excellent, thank you. I always want to warn people I'm not going to make you like sing or come up or anything like that. It's just for my own information. But thank you for coming and welcome. Our organizers, we tend to have them come every year because they really do an excellent program. And you guys kind of switch off on who moderates, right? So Janet will be moderating tonight. So I'll let you take it away.
So good evening. Thank you for coming. I'm so glad that the weather decided to straighten up a little bit. It's not so easy to come out when it's really very cold or when there's lots of snow. So New Year's resolutions. My name's Janet Barnes, and I work with Connecticut Closet and Shelf, which is a company based in Norwalk. And what we do is we go into people's homes, look at the situation in all the areas that you have that include storage. So it may be that you need help with basements or attics or garages, let alone just your plain old regular old closet. But whatever that is, we're happy to come in and see if we can help you make the space there more efficient. I'm part of the group. You can see the sign on the front of the table there, Fairfield Organizers. We started this group, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe? And we're a group of people, actually, that are part of a larger organization called NAPO, which is the National Association of Professional Organizers. But we decided that maybe we could put together a smaller group down in this lower Fairfield County area, and we call ourselves the Focus Group, which is Fairfield Organizers Creating Ultimate Solutions. So we're hoping that tonight we can help you go through some of your New Year's resolutions, whether they be small or big or repeats, things of that nature. I know it's hard for everybody. But before we get started, I'd just like to introduce everybody that we have here. I think I see some familiar faces myself, and it may be that you do know some of our speakers. So first of all, we have Matt Baier from Matt Baier Organizing, and he specializes really probably in some of the larger projects. So if you have a house or an office and maybe you're moving or maybe you're downsizing or maybe you're just feeling overwhelmed with everything that's there, Matt has a team of people that he works with, and maybe he's the right kind of guy to help you figure out what needs to be done and maybe cut it down into small pieces and help you with one of your goals for this year. Next, we have Jen Burke from JKB Organizing, her own company. And Jen also does general organizing for homes and offices, but she does have a little bit of a specialty, and that is working with children or with parents. The general idea being that, you know, when you have maybe 1, 2, or 3 kids in school, sometimes it's very complicated keeping a household schedule together, you know, keeping bedrooms organized and things of that nature. So she spends quite a lot of time in the local area here helping families keep everything organized and straight and under control so that the whole family can be happy. And then, not last but least, Susan Lovallo. Susan has been an organizer for a long time, and again specializes in all areas of organization but particularly people who might have a home office or a small business office and may need some help with financial paperwork or organizing systems for those types of files. And I think recently she's also taken up organizing photographs for people. I know it can be very confusing because people have the shoeboxes of photographs, and now in this day and age it might be appropriate to transfer them to another format. So if that's your need, Susan might be the right person for you. So basically, we have 3 different perspectives here on organizing for the year. And as the title says, what we're here to talk about tonight is the new year, new goals, and how to make your resolutions stick. I don't know, I have tried not to make very large resolutions. I think I've decided that what works best for me is to pick something quite small and try to stick with it. And I'm sure everybody's a little bit different that way. And so I think with the 3 people that you have tonight, you will have a different take on what might fit for you. So there's a lot of things that we want to cover. Each person is going to speak, I think, for about 25 minutes or so, and maybe you have an appropriate question for each person as we go along. But what I thought, before we get started really in the meat of the whole thing, I thought I would just give you some ideas of other people's resolutions. I don't know if you're familiar with Henry Moore, the sculptor. Basically, his claim to fame is he does very, very large sculptures. And his resolution in the past has been, I think in terms of one day's resolution, not a year's. And if you think about what he's created, I think it would be pretty difficult to kind of decide on making a humongous kind of sculpture and have a goal of completing it in, let's say, a year or 2 years or something like that. So his philosophy was to, let's say, break it down into small steps. Theodore Roosevelt, believe you can, and you're halfway there. So his is a little bit more of an affirmation, maybe something that he would have said to himself every day, just to kind of keep a focus on things. And then lastly, I've got something from Oprah Winfrey. And hers is, year's end is neither an end nor a beginning, but a going on with all the wisdom that experience can instill in us. Cheers for a new year and a chance to get it right. And when I heard that, I started thinking about that a little bit, and I thought, gee, I don't know if that would work for me. I think maybe I'm a little bit more like the Henry Moore, breaking it down into small pieces. And tonight we're going to have Matt starting off with a talk, and his starts with the perils of perfection. And so I was thinking of Oprah's resolution and thinking, getting it right, how does that really work? So maybe Matt can help us out with that. Matt?
Testing. Oh, this is working. Is it a little loud? It's about right?
Yeah.
Good? Okay, excellent. Susan was so good as to let me borrow this. I'm going to be so good as to figure out what I'm doing. All right, so I have the timer. Yeah, you better be ready. Okay. Chart if you're ready. Okay. So, the perils of perfection. Why are we talking about this? In case you think being organized is about being perfect, forget it. Really what organizing is about, the way I like to summarize it, the way I say it, it's about taking the less important stuff out of the way so that you can get to the most important stuff. Now that less important stuff doesn't always mean getting rid of it. It sometimes means reassigning, reprioritizing. but they act as barriers. And perfection is definitely a barrier. It's not a virtue, it's a barrier. Now, I'm not saying everybody here is a perfectionist, I'm not suggesting that at all, but you may know somebody that is. I have to confess, I'm a recovering perfectionist. I've gotten help, but I've come to realize that a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. Put another way, perfection is the enemy of done. So if you, what happened? If you've made resolutions to get organized this year, and you are worried that maybe friends and family are going to laugh at you when it all falls apart, hopefully I can warn you as to the dangers of the barriers of perfection. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 4 perfection barriers. Perfect completion, perfect filing, perfect kids, and perfect. You know what? I'll get used to this. All right. All right. So perfect completion. So perhaps you said, all right, this is the year I'm going to get organized. I've had it with always being the last person to arrive, always being late. I hate paying late fees because I've lost bills. I hate making multiple purchases on things I've already gotten. I want to organize the whole house top to bottom so it looks like those pages from Real Simple magazine. I want to be organized. So here's the thing. After whatever it is, a lifetime of bad habits, or maybe it's a simple segue or shift in life where things have sort of fallen by the wayside and want to get back to being organized, it's not going to happen overnight. So the most important thing to know is do this in stages. And I think we're all at some level going to be talking about that, doing things in stages, breaking things down as a way to achieve New Year's resolutions or any goals. So we're all going to come at it a slightly different way. I'm going to come at it from the anti-perfection approach and give you some of my recommendations of how to go about reaching your goals. So in terms of the perfect completion, getting it all done, which, as I've established, it's not happening. What I recommend, if you want to have clutter control and time management, focus on space before time. Here's why. If you're learning new time management habits, it's hard to do when your workspace doesn't make sense. And it's hard for your workspace to make sense if it's encroached on or buried by clutter. So my recommendation, start with clutter first. We'll get to the time management. And number 2, start with the quick wins. And what do I mean by a quick win? A quick win would be larger, easier decisions, stuff to get rid of, which one tends to find in garage, possibly the basement. And it might be saying, you know what, I want to have a more organized schedule. Why would I be bothering with this? Well, it's because it makes you feel good. It is a quick win. When you're getting rid of these large items, you're making fast progress, and you're feeling good about yourself, and you're enjoying quick wins. And the other reason it's great to start in the garage is because you're freeing up a lot of space fast, and you can then establish exit zones. Have you ever cleared out a room, maybe it's an all-purpose room, or a kitchen, bedroom, could be anything. You start going through things and have a few things to take out, and you go to the garage, it's packed with stuff, and it's kind of discouraging. When you start with the garage and it's cleared out, you've got a donate zone, toss zone, sell zone, all clearly labeled. You've got a plan in place, and you're ready to go. And like I said, it's so encouraging. We've got those big space gains. You feel you feel great, and that's what you want. You want to keep going. Next is a big one. Don't buy containers first. This is always great standard organizing advice. It's very easy to have the perfect container in mind, or maybe it's the perfect piece of furniture, and say, well, I want my organizing systems to fit into that. It's not a great plan. Focus on processing your quantity stuff first. It's a very easy rule I use for this. Quantity dictates systems. Doesn't really work to do it the other way around. So save those containers for later. You'll make the best choices when you know exactly what you're keeping. When you get things down to manageable quantities, it's then that sort of the right containers, the right furniture reveals themselves. Okay, perfect filing. Now, when decluttering, I often recommend do the paper files, the paper clutter last. A couple reasons for this. Paper requires more focus, and it requires more room to spread out. So if you've got those easy, the quick wins, clear it out in the garage, and drain some stuff from other areas in the house, and you're opening up space, which is a wonderful feeling. Then it's time to deal with the paper, which it's a word that often makes people cringe. But it's a whole lot easier when you've got the space to work on it and the focus, because you don't have all the other stuff going on. So I recommend sorting through your paper last, clutter. Number one, don't begin with an overly complicated filing system. You probably know the ones of those beautiful color-coded systems that have all these different categories. Run out and buy that. And say, this is my perfect dream of what filing should look like. If I only had this, then I'd be perfectly organized. But the fact is, that perfect vision can be a frustrating, perfect barrier. So what do I recommend instead? Again, it's back to breaking things down in stages, manageable stages. And like the regular clutter, go for the quick wins first. You feel great, and it's encouraging to keep moving forward. That's where this diagram comes in. Now, let's assume you've got, this represents all your paper files and paper piles everywhere. Stage one, take out all the, go for the garbage first. That's your quickest win of all. The stuff that you've had for several years, you're wondering, why the heck am I keeping that? Out it goes. And along with those, all what I call sleeping files, or archives, basically. Now, you're not getting rid of these, but you can store these more remotely. And right away, open space, it feels great, and it says, okay, now we can do more. The next distinction you want to make is between files you need to be able to find reliably and files you actually have to make a point of acting on. Whenever you get bogged down in the details and wondering, what's next, or should I keep this, how long should I keep this, do I need this? Simply start with, do I need to make a point of acting on this, or do I simply need to be able to find it reliably? So you make this division and set aside these files to find reliably for now. Again, more white space, more breathing room. This is manageable. You've got focus. So that's your next stage, is that is always breaking it down so you've got more focus, it becomes more manageable. You might not do all these stages in one day. You probably won't. And that's probably the biggest problem with seeking a perfect filing solution for your files, is that you underestimate just how big a job it is. It's big. So now we're at the stage where you're simply looking at files you want to make a point of acting on. These can be simply divided by your projects and your tasks. best way to describe the distinction is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Your elephants are your projects, your tasks are the bites. It takes a lot of tasks to get through a project. And some tasks, of course, are independent of projects, but essentially that's how you break them down. So for now, we're going to put the projects aside and focus even more on the tasks. Things you want to make a point of doing. Simply break them down by 3 very simple categories. Is this task urgent, like I should be doing it right now, but I'm sorting papers, urgent? Or is it something I should do soon or do eventually? Now, eventually could mean next week or week after, or quite honestly, maybe never get to it. But the important thing is to make this distinction. So, set these aside. Look at that. And one little thing you've got to really deal with now. You're urgent to do tasks. Next step, do them. That's simple. Sorry about that. I gotta get practice for this thing. So, do your urgent tasks. That's the next step. The reason to take a step aside is to put these aside and do your urgent tasks is because it relieves your mind. It's like, all right, I'm getting the medical bills paid, I'm calling this person, this is being taken care of, I haven't put it off any longer, I'm dealing with these. Okay, now I can go back to a filing system. All right, these are done for now. The to-do soons are going to become to-do urgents. But for now you can go back and focus on that filing system. You've cleared everything out, you can focus on one thing at a time. Now, we could go into a lot of detail on filing, paper management, but that's not our focus tonight. However, if you are interested, next Tuesday, 6:30, we are offering a paper management workshop in Trumbull, which you can find out about on our website, focusorganizers.com. We got all sorts of great paper management tips. Okay, this brings us to perfect kids. Now, I'm surprised. I'm getting a lot of business right now. A lot of people want to get organized. A lot of people want to get their families organized. And it's important not to confuse the fact that you want to get organized with the fact that maybe your kids don't. Maybe they're not quite on board. So my advice is give them small, realistic goals. And make them simple. Make them super simple. I like to say, make it so easy it feels like you're cheating. Example. I see a lot of bedrooms where there are clothes everywhere, and mother has the hamper in the closet across the room. It's a lidded hamper. And because she doesn't like the way the hampers look in the bedroom, they're not nice looking. Meanwhile, there's, to stick with the theme, it's not that perfect vision. Meanwhile, it doesn't look so perfect that there are clothes piled up everywhere because the kid doesn't want to be bothered with putting his clothes away. Instead, you have a dark unlidded hamper, white unlidded hamper right next to the bed where where the child typically undresses, that it literally becomes as easy to drop it in during closing the hamper as it does on the floor. Again, so easy it feels like it's cheating. That's the goal. All right, the other thing is one goal at a time. Again, so maybe you just focus on. Maybe you've got a whole new routine you want to have with all these new habits you want to do every day. Don't be so overly ambitious with your kids. Focus on one at a time. Maybe it's all right. So we get the hamper thing down. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. We got that right. Maybe we can focus on getting the backpack hung up every time we come home from school. Again, keep it simple. And, oh, toys. Positively the worst thing to organize. My recommendation is leave the allowance that you just have to make it easy for you to clean up. Because there's a lot you could do to make toy organizing a whole lot easier, but there is nothing that guarantees that they'll be put away. So, at the very least, have the systems so easy that a parent, cleaning person can clean up. I mean, it's not a perfect answer when company's coming over and you're picking up after your kids, but it's an answer. It gets done. Okay, perfect tech. Sorry about that. I watch my T's. Out of desperation and sometimes just out of a need to keep up with the times, a lot of people turn to technology as the perfect organizing answer. Well, technology won't help you get more organized, even if it's the most up-to-date technology. It assists, but it's not the answer. My recommendation is start with the paper management and the time management. Get systems that you trust. That's really the whole key. I think it was David Allen in Getting Things Done, the Art of Stress-Free Productivity, says the key to staying organized is take everything that's swimming around your head and get it out and into a system you trust. So it's important to understand how the files break down into categories. It's important to understand projects and tasks versus events, and keeping all that clear before running out and buying the neatest gadget there is. Once you've got all that organized, then find an app for that. That's about it. So in conclusion, number one, don't try to do it all at once. Don't look for that perfect solution. Break it down in stages. And remember, good plan today, better than a perfect plan tomorrow.
Thank you, Matt. One thing that struck me as Matt was talking about was simplifying things, taking little small things, getting that out of the way. On a personal level, I just think this is the perfect time of year. When it's as cold as it is, and maybe not the time of year where you want to be out there walking and hiking around, the kind of thing I might typically do. I think it's a fabulous time of the year, the beginning of the year, kind of snuggle in your office or a kitchen or whatever it is with a cup of tea, and just get going to start. So next we have Jen Burke, from company JKB Organizing, and she's going to talk about simplifying things, living the life, the simple life. Right?
Yes, living the simple life. Sounds good, right? We don't want to live the simple life. I think we realized from Matt that we can't achieve perfection, nor do we really want to achieve perfection, but I think we all agree here that we could easily simplify a part of our life. Does everyone agree with that? I mean, is there something in your life that you think could be a little bit easier? Yeah. I feel, like my husband said, don't preach, when you talk to these people, because this is my favorite topic. I mean, when we talk about simplifying our lives, this is what we do as organizers with our clients every day, teach simplification. So we've all learned what it's like, to live a life that's pretty simple, with less stuff, with no clutter, with being able to find something where we're looking for it, having our kids organized. So we're sort of a rare breed right here, so we understand really the benefits of what it can do to bring simplification into your life. My dear friend and next door neighbor is a woman in town. You may have seen her on the front page of last week's Darien Times. She lost her leg to an illness. Does anybody know this story? Okay. So She is a mom of 4 kids. She works full-time. She's, you know, a doer, a go-getter, overwhelmed, you know, has problems with time management because she has so many things to do, she can't fit it into a day. She developed this illness and had her leg amputated about as high up as you can go. And the reason I tell you this story is because she's one of my closest friends, and she and I have been, you know, talking a lot since this has happened, obviously. And when I told her that I was talking about simplifying your life today, she was so excited she almost wanted to come and talk to all of you, because it's not until you're put into a situation where you're forced to simplify your life that, you know, you finally understand the meaning of simplification. So I asked her, you know, Kristen, what has this done for your life in terms of simplifying? And she can't say enough about the benefits that it's brought to her, especially in terms of time management, you know, not overscheduling, being able to focus more on your kids. You know, she can't just jump up and get in the car and leave the way she used to. So life has slowed down, and she has started to really observe a lot and learn a lot about maybe living a different kind of life, you know, even when she does get her leg, that things will be simpler and easier for her. So pretty interesting that I'm talking about this topic, and she's living this really every day. Okay, so what does simplifying mean? Simplifying means that we eliminate what's not important and add what is, something that Matt also was talking about. So I like the adding what is part, simplifying. So believe it or not, you can actually add, you think that adding might, you know, not make it so simple, but sometimes it will. For example, my resolution this year, and I'm an open person, so I'll tell you what my resolution is to spend more time with my mom. So in order to do that, I need to drive to Pittsburgh. Too expensive to fly, so I'm going to drive. But to do that, I need to take off some Fridays, which eats into my work schedule, which is hard to do for my family, for my children. So it's a real juggle of time management, you know, trying to figure out how I can do this, yet still simplify my life, which sounds weird because it sounds difficult, but it will simplify because I want to see my mom more, who is sick. So that is actually going to make my life feel a lot more less stressful and simplified. Does that make sense? It sounds like I'm adding a lot on, but it's actually going to make my life a lot more simple. So that's my resolution for this year. So why does simple matter? Simple matters for a couple reasons. One is it creates time and it creates space to be with the people we want to be with and do the things that we love to do. It creates clarity and also a balance in our life, which we all want to achieve. And it also makes us feel better, you know, physically. You know, we're not as exhausted, we're not as stressed, we're not as run down. So there are a lot of benefits that we can get to living a more simplified existence. But in order for all of us to simplify our life, let's say we all strive to do that in 2014, and I think every year we say the same thing, you know, we're going to simplify a little bit this year. But if we truly want to do that, we all have to change. We have to change in some way. Change is hard for people, but we have to embrace change in order to make it more simple. It can't work any other way. So what do you need to do to change, to put change into your life? So the first thing and most important is you have to have a vision or a goal. So some of you in the room might be saying, I want to get my finances in order. Some may be saying, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. Some may be saying, I want to spend more time with family. Whatever it is, you have to create this vision and really just kind of look at it But most importantly, I mean, you have to make that plan, which Matt mentions also. You know, you can have this vision, you can have this goal, but until there's a set plan in place, it's probably not going to work. You know, and even as an organizer, I mean, I've made resolutions that have, you know, been broken within 3 weeks because I didn't have a plan. And the easiest way to do that is to just get a pen and write it down. Write. You know, what will this vision create for me? And just, you know, just start writing it. And it really, really does help if you put it down on paper. Make sure that it's a very simple, doable, achievable kind of resolution that you make or goal that you have. If you say something like, well, I do want to get organized this year, obviously that's pretty vague. So you're going to have to really define what that means. Does that mean that I want to pay all my bills on time and not pay any late fees? Does that mean that I want to get my, you know, kids to school on time and make sure they finish their homework and be on top of my time management? So you have to be specific, but make it pretty simple, not something that's just not going to be achieved. So like Matt says as well, break it down, make it real small. Self-awareness is something else that you have to change. So when I say self-awareness, I mean, you really have to own it. You know, you have to take control of this and say, I'm going to do this. It's not going to be easy. You know, a lot of things in life aren't easy, but if I take ownership of it and say, okay, this is my life, and the decisions and the actions that I take are really going to be the first step to making a real change. So I think it's also being real honest with yourself. You know, if I'm going to achieve this, it's going to be difficult. That's okay. We all have done difficult things in our lives, but these are the steps I need to take to get there. The other thing is the commitment and the desire. I mean, we all have a desire to make a change. I mean, all of you are here. You all came today. You must have some kind of desire to make some change to your 2014, right? But we have to make sure that we all implement, you know, that we get that done. And I think that, you know, one real pitfall that everyone makes is, if I don't achieve this in January, February, I've lost the resolution and it's never going to happen. Which is so not true. We have a whole year to meet our resolution, right? So if I'm going to go visit my mom more and I don't get to it in January or February or even March, it's okay. Because April or May, I am going to visit her more. So don't be frustrated if within the first couple of months you feel like you're not achieving your resolution. Even if you have a resolution to lose weight and you instead gain weight. I mean, that happens all the time with resolutions. It's okay, because in a few months you can start in and get to the point you want to be at, okay? Okay, so if we can make these choices about what we want to change in our life, we can simplify a lot of areas. So as organizers, we really help people organize 3 different things. One is time management, one is spaces, garages, houses, attics, and the other is possessions. So whether it's your jewelry or your bills or something really specific. So those are really 3 areas that we help people, our clients, organize, okay? So for example, let's talk first time management. Time management is a big one. I mean, how many in here would like to make some kind of change in their time management for this upcoming year? Right. It's huge. We're either overwhelmed, we have too much going on, maybe we're not doing enough, maybe we just need to shift our priorities within time management, but time management is a real big one. How can we simplify our time management? One thing we can do is learn to say no. I mean, so many of us can't do that. We have such a hard time being asked to do something, being, you know, a volunteer, being on a committee, and we can't say no. So that may be something that we'll have to do, is say no, possibly, right? Don't overschedule. Maybe you want more time with your kids. Maybe you want more time with your spouse. Maybe your time management involves less time on the computer, less social networking, less, as I'm saying all these things, I'm sure that everyone in the room is thinking, okay, this is what I need to do to manage change in my time management. I used to volunteer all the time at my kids' schools, to the point where it was so overwhelming, I never had any free time for me. And then I started my business and I said, hold on here, I just can't keep saying yes. And then once you learn to say no, it's amazing the doors that will open up for you. Okay, so the next thing is spaces. Organizing a space. So let's say your goal is to organize your bedroom, okay? It's pretty simple. It's not organizing the whole house, it's just one room in the house. But try and break that down. Maybe you start with your closet. And maybe within the closet, you start with getting all the hangers to look exactly the same. And I did this for a client the other day, and she was so over the moon. It was practically the only thing we did. But she was so happy. So all the dry cleaner hangers left, and they all looked exactly the same. And that was enough for her to be jump-started to do the rest of her closet. Not that day. We'll get to that another day. But take something real small like that, the closet and maybe the hangers, and then see how you feel after you accomplish that one small task. And I guarantee that that will trickle into the rest of your closet, which will trickle into the bedroom, and then you can complete the bedroom. But break it down in real tiny pieces. Possessions. We also help people organize all their possessions, whether it's their jewelry or their junk drawer or their bills, their paper. And maybe you're going to make a resolution this year that you want to get on top of all your paper. I mean, paper is a huge challenge for all of us, even us as organizers. It comes in from school, it comes in from the mail, it comes in from everywhere. And it's hard to get control of it if you don't know how to control it. So maybe that's your resolution. How do you attack that? How do you attack all this paper coming in? Break it down in real tiny pieces. Maybe you want to make a resolution to get off of mailing lists this year, okay? So maybe you're gonna, find out how to not get all these catalogs in junk mail. And there are a lot of ways to do that, which are pretty simple. Maybe that's your resolution. Maybe you want to start there. Maybe you need to develop a new bill pay system. Maybe you're losing track of your bills and then you're paying late fees and you can't keep on top of when they're due. So maybe you just need to make a new system for how to pay your bills. So instead of just taking all your paperwork and thinking about, oh my gosh, I have to make a resolution to just not have any of this paper accumulate anymore, just break it down into a little tiny piece and start with that and then work from there. Okay, so let's see. We think that January is a great time to start this. I mean, everybody wants to make a resolution. Again, not that it has to happen in January, but it's a great time to start it. It's like we're starting fresh. It seems like once December ends, which is exhausting, right? You go through Christmas and New Year's, and then you get into January and things start to pick up again. It seems like the logical time to start, right? So if everybody in here could just think in their mind about one thing that they would like to simplify in their life, and go home, maybe not tonight, maybe not this week, but sometime this month maybe, grab your pen, your piece of paper, and try and make that a reality. Not just saying it in your mind, but really putting it down on paper and owning up to it and being serious about it. Maybe the best place to start is with what is bothering you the most. When we go into clients' houses, we're always asked, where do we start? I'm so overwhelmed with so many areas of my house. What do we do first? I don't know what to do. And we usually say, what is really bothering you the most? What's waking you up at night? Focus in on that little area. You know, so if it's the bills, if it's the garage, maybe it's the attic, maybe it's, you know, getting your kids organized, whatever that is, take a little piece of that and start there. And again, start small. We can't emphasize that enough. I mean, we're all going to be preaching that. You just have to start with a real tiny piece and then branch out. I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite books in the world. I always talk about him, Peter Walsh. But if you want a book suggestion on how to simplify your life, and again, I won't preach, but I will tell you that it's one of my favorite reads, and it's called It's All Too Much. And it's about simplifying your life and decluttering your house and then also your mind. So it's twofold. It's a fabulous read, but it really just hones in on exactly what I'm talking about. So do your homework. I won't check in with all of you, but I'm hoping that you do. And maybe Susan can help you get started because she's going to talk about motivation. Okay? So she's going to try and get you all motivated to do that. Thank you.
So why are we cheering the 43%?
Because they know that.
Right?
They can't say it, I guess.
Right? So actually, this is the percent that they did not accomplish their New Year's resolution, 43%. So they made a resolution, but they did not accomplish it. So why would we cheer that? Right? They thought about it. They had a resolution.
Because they didn't set themselves up for failure.
Right? I mean, we're going to cheer them because at least they put something into it, right? They thought about it, they had a resolution. They didn't quite make their goal, but still, you know, we're just going to acknowledge them because they did something. But we're going to focus really on this 8%, right? Because who here wants to be part of the 8%? Right? We want to be in this 8%. Okay, so let's look at this 8%. What makes this 8% different than the percentage of people who either partially or did not accomplish their goals at all? What's the difference?
They had a plan.
A plan, right? So a plan is important, right? A plan is wonderful, but what else do you need other than a plan?
They acted on the plan.
Commitment. You have to be motivated. You could have the most beautiful plan in the world, but if you're not motivated, how is that plan going to happen? So what is motivation? What does that mean to be motivated? You mean you're excited about it?
Passion.
You're passionate about it?
You gotta feel good when it's all done.
You feel good when it's done, and even the process of doing it, right? It means that you're taking action. If you have motivation, right, you're doing something about it. That you keep going. That you go past your barriers, past your blockages, right? And that you're moving past your prior patterns, whatever they are, okay? Now, of this 8% that accomplished their goals, do you think that they were motivated 100% of the time, 100% motivated? Right? Is that our expectation? Do we expect that?
Yes.
Right? That's our expectation. We think in order to get to this 8%, you have to be 100% motivated 100% of the time. Right? Now, it could be that maybe, possibly, this is not the first time you've had a resolution to be organized. Right? Am I right? You may have had this before. Okay? So if the expectation is that we're going to be 100% organized 100% of the time, our history may have been that we made this resolution and we didn't accomplish it. right? So we have a 0%. Okay. So we have kind of this all or nothing, right? This perfectionist that Matt talked about, right? This kind of all or nothing. So let's just look at our expectation here. I want you to fill in the blank of this sentence. I will be organized every blank. Every what? Every day. Every what? Every week. Every minute. Every minute. Right? Every opportunity I get. Every chance I get. Right? Now, do you think that that's how this 8% got here? Right? Because wouldn't that be this 100%? Right? If you look at words like every, always, right? So on this side, this 100% expectation, we have words like every, always. And then on this side, with the 0%, right, we kind of have never. Or like Jen was saying, well, I made the goal January 1st. Here it's January 10th, and I still haven't put the laundry away. I guess maybe I never, right? Here I am. But how about if we look at something that's in between this 100% and 0%? How about if we look in the middle of this and how this 8% gets there? Okay? That you're going to be organized most of the time. Most. Not all of the time, not never, right? In between, most of the time. Okay? And shoot for 80%. So you know the 80% rule, right? The 80-20. If you're organized 80% of the time, right? That's pretty good, 80% of the time. If you can work up to maybe towards like 95% of the time. Because we're not always going to be organized. We're not going to be 100% organized 100% of the time. We're not going to be 100% motivated 100% of the time. But if we could shoot for 80% and just keep inching that up, then we could be organized most of the time. Okay? Now, also in your organizing, I want you to really watch your language. Because we could be doing this always never kind of language in our heads. And we want to look at not being futuristic about our organizing either. You know, I'm going to be organized someday. Or I'm going to be organized the next chance I get. Or or waiting for the rescue. Waiting for the miracle. Or then kind of like the if-then scenario. Well, if I had better closets, I would be organized, which is true, right? You have what you have, so certainly it's wonderful to have state-of-the-art closets, but if you have small closets, you have small closets. If you don't have a lot of storage, you don't have a lot of storage. You can still be organized even if you have small closets and don't have a lot of storage. Right? So we want to get away from that futuristic thinking. Now, also with organizing, I'm going to call this the do it anyway approach. It may be that you don't feel like it. You don't feel like organizing. So I'm going to tell you to do it anyway, 80 to 95% of the time. You may not like organizing. Does anybody here like organizing? Love organizing? Right? You might not like to organize, but do it anyway. You might find organizing is boring. Does anyone think it's boring? Oh, that's so sad you said that. But if you find it boring, do it anyway. accept the fact that you would probably like to be doing something else other than organizing. But organize anyway. And it may not be easy for you, right? We talked about that. It might not be easy for you to organize, but organize anyway. Okay? Organize 80 to 95% of the time, because it really could be fun. And it does get easier when you work on it. So how do you stay motivated, or how do you get motivated, right? So one thing is to realize that with organizing, so here, if you have zero organizing, then there are consequences. What are some of the consequences of zero organizing, or not being that organized? Clutter, mess, you can't find anything,
Bills.
you waste money, bills are late, right? You're always rushing around, don't have enough time, can't find anything, right? So those are consequences. But if you're organized 80 to 95% of the time, then what do you have? You have rewards. What are some of the rewards of being organized?
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind. You what?
Save time.
You save time. You feel better about your home and about your space. You can have company anytime you want to. You can find things. You can get out the door easier, the whole family, everything flows better, getting your kids ready, and, right, all of that. So recognize there's either consequences or that there's rewards. And let that be a motivator for you. Also, track your progress. Take before pictures. Before you start organizing an area, take pictures of that area, and as you're going through the process of organizing it, take some pictures along the way, and then an after picture. And look at where you started and where you ended up. It's a great motivator to see that. Watch for your patterns, okay? Because if this is not the very first time you ever thought of getting organized, and maybe you have some history at this whole process, right? You might have a little backsliding that goes on, or just noticing what your patterns are, and stop yourself in your tracks early in that process before you're kind of back where you were, this time last year. So kind of nip that in the bud. When you first see yourself in that backslide, reel it in right there. Also you're blaming and that whole tomorrow aspect. Now a lot of people, because they don't like organizing, because it's not their favorite thing to do, they tend to organize very slowly. And one of the things that slows people up is when they procrastinate, right? So you're waking up today and you're saying, all right, it's Saturday morning, I'm going to start organizing this morning, right? And you wake up and you say, well, I don't really feel like it, so I think, I'll go and have myself a nice breakfast first. So then you go have a nice breakfast, and while you're having breakfast, you put the TV on, right? And now you get involved in a show, and then the TV is off, and you say, oh, I've been meaning to call my friend all week, and now you call your friend, right? And you're doing all these other things, procrastinating, right? And it takes this whole process of the Saturday morning organizing, and it slows it down, right? We want organizing to have a nice pace to it. We don't want it to be a crashing train wreck that you're going so fast and you're frantic, but we want it to move along. And when you have good systems and you have things in place and you start to get your home more organized, this whole process picks up speed and goes faster. Because the faster you get organized and you get all this done, then you can go out and really enjoy your Saturday and do all the things that you really want to do, and not have this gnawing thing about, oh, but I didn't organize, I didn't get the, whatever area it is that you want to organize. Have a strategy for when your motivation lags, right? Because chances are that it's going to, right? Because that's human nature. Now, what's something that you could do to help with your motivation when you feel that motivation start to go down a little bit? What could you do? Well, here's something you can do. You can take out your notes from tonight, and you can reread your notes and let them encourage you, okay? So don't take these notes and go home and just put them in the pile of papers that's on top of the microwave. But you can put these on your refrigerator where you can see them, or you can put them on the top of your reading pile, or you could just get a folder and make a label on it that says organize, and then you could put your notes in there and any articles that you find that really inspire you, or a product that you think that would help you. Let that be your organizing file, and then go to that for inspiration. Have written goals. There's all kinds of studies saying that if you write your goals down, you have a much higher chance of being in this 8% and accomplishing your goals if you write them out and make something visual that you can see. I'm a big believer in what I call the power of one page. I do all of my goals for the year in all my different categories, and I keep it to one page. And I look at it every month. So I keep my written goals for the year in my bills to pay folder, because I look in that folder all the time. So when I go in, actually twice a month, because I pay bills twice a month. So when I'm in that folder twice a month, I'm looking at my goals and say, how am I doing? I have a highlighter and I highlight things as I accomplish them. Along with having written goals, have a visual goal. If you're going to organize your kitchen, before you even start, stand at your kitchen and look around that kitchen and visualize what it's going to look like when it's organized. See your counters clear, see everything organized in your cabinets. Oh, picture those drawers, open up those drawers and just visualize what it's going to look like when you no longer have a junk drawer, or when your junk drawer has little containers and now it's organized and you can find things and it becomes useful to you. So visualize that. It's a very powerful tool, right? We've all mentioned having an action plan, having that written down step by step. The more detail you have to your plan, the higher chance that you will get your plan and you will be part of this 8%. And when your motivation starts to lag, you can look at your plan and say, look at that, I've already accomplished 40%. I just have the other 60% to go, right? It becomes a motivator for you. But really write out every single step in the area that you're going to organize and what you're going to do and how you're going to approach this and what your goals are. Really give yourself that visual and write it all down. Have smaller sub-goals. This is your to-do list. This is what you're going to write down in your daily tasks, are these little tiny things, right? So on your list of things to do, you're not going to have organize the kitchen. You're going to have organize the utensil drawer, organize the silverware, organize one cabinet or one shelf in one cabinet. Make these goals as small as you need to be. What I tell people to do is, when you start, look at the area and your goal could be this big. And if that's overwhelming to you, then go like this and make it smaller. And if that's overwhelming, put your hands down and make it smaller. And if that's overwhelming, just make it just this, just exactly what you can see between your hands. Just drill it down and make it as small as you need to make it. Because it's very important that when you're working on this, that you shift your mind out of overwhelm. Because once the mind goes into overwhelm, visually we cannot see things as clearly. And there's been a lot of work and study done on this. That when people shift into overwhelm, we get this all the time when people call us and they say, I don't know where to start. The reason people don't know where to start is because when we're in overwhelm, it all looks the same. It looks like one thing, right? But to an organizer, we see it in steps. We see it in stages. That's why it doesn't overwhelm us. That's why you have to narrow it down and make it small, very, very small. Schedule your organizing into your calendar. So if you have a pen calendar or a paper calendar, then write it in there when you're going to organize. And if you have a digital, then block that out so that you know what your organizing time is. So there's two types of organizing time you need. You need everyday organizing. That's that little stuff that you're going to do every single day, the putting away, the straightening out, all that little stuff. You really want to weave that into your lifestyle now, that it becomes part of you and becomes part of your habit. And then there's the bigger organizing chunks of time that you need to work on all those progress areas that you need to work on, the big projects, like the kitchen, the garage, and the attic, and the basement, and all those big areas, okay? Don't let your tasks pile up till they become so overwhelming. That's why we weave it in every day so it doesn't become so big. And in order to stay motivated, this is the most important thing about staying motivated. You must see progress. You must see that you've gotten someplace. It's like going on a diet and never losing weight. Would you stay on the diet? Right? You have to lose weight to be motivated and stay on your diet. And it's the same thing with organizing. You have to see your progress in order to stay motivated. And lastly, stop suffering. If you're really having a hard time doing this yourself, then you need to bring somebody in to help you with this. And it could be a professional, but it could also be a friend or a neighbor. It's extremely important that whoever works with you on this project, that they not criticize you, that they not blame you, that they not say anything negative or give opinions about your space, right? And this happens a lot with well-meaning people that we bring in to help us, and I see this a lot of times with couples, right? I work with couples a lot. And one couple's, one of them will say, all right, I want to get rid of this ugly lamp. Right? But to the person who owns the lamp, like, that's not an ugly lamp. That's a lamp from grandma. That's important. So it's important that people not have judgments or criticisms about your stuff, because it's not, we don't want people to feel shamed or criticized, okay? But I want you to know that if you stay with this process, that no matter where you are in your organizing today, that you can be more organized. You can be as organized as you want to be. You can be part of this 8%. Okay?
Thank you.
A lot of things to think about. One thing that struck me, actually, when Jen was talking, some of us of a certain age, as we get along that way, start looking at things and just, where did all this stuff come from? And I was thinking about a comedian, I forget his name, but he talked something about you spend the first half of your life accumulating things.
George Cara.
The second half of your life trying to get rid of the stuff. And when you can bring yourself to do that, it just feels great, And there's so many of my friends who are either downsizing or moving or relocating or what have you. And every single one of them has said that once they got rid of this stuff, it was just fabulous. They haven't missed anything that they got rid of. A lot of it went to other people, and it was useful for them. And it was just a really great goal to have for them for the year. So, the last thing before we leave, I think everybody has a little yellow slip there. We have a raffle. And if you could just put your contact information on there, we'll collect them somewhere. I don't know if everybody has a pen. Does anybody need a pen or a pencil to do that? No? We have a goldfish bowl. We do. Goldfish bowl. Okay.
Totally organized.
Does anybody else have any other comments at all?
I've got 2 prizes.
Prizes, that's it.
Is there a question and answer?
Yeah, working with us.
Okay. Why do people, some people do it effortlessly and some people have a problem with organizing?
I think it could be an emotional thing, and I find it an emotional thing. I guess I play games with myself when I do it. I do write it down, I do break it into pieces, I do give myself a time frame, typically to get things done. And then I go rewards to myself. A reward, and my gift actually is related to that. So if you say, okay, this is what I need to do, this is my goal, you write it down. I try to pick small things, not huge things. So maybe I pick a goal just for the month of January, not a resolution for the whole year.
No, but I mean, some people, for instance, I've heard Cara, Brooke say,
Right.
well, it just comes naturally to me because